Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This lesson is on reviewing the literature. Now, the wonderful thing about being a student at a university is that you have access to a university library. Often, the questions that we have, the things that we're struggling with, we're not the first to have those questions and to struggle with those things in our work. And so often it's really good to be able to access the university library and get some answers, see what other people have done, what other people have come up with to solve some of the similar problems that we're encountering. So let's talk about reviewing the literature. Okay. So, a literature review. Here then is a written summary of the literature, okay? And yeah, and basically we only write the review for a class or if we're going to publish a paper, something like that. Usually, hopefully the majority of the time when you're accessing the library or Googling something about education, you're just going to find the answer and you're going to be able to use it right away. But there are times when it's important to be able to synthesize and write a review of what you've found. So a literature review is a written summary of the literature, and the best ones really are syntheses rather than just summaries. Um, they describe past and current information and research. Usually they're organized into subtopics. I recommend no more than 3 subtopics. They're based mainly on research reported in journal articles. Journal articles are the vehicle by which we get access to formal research, right? And they document how then our studies, how our research will then add to the literature. Okay, the review doesn't do it. At the end, we will document how our study would add to this body of literature that we have described in our literature review. So, 6 steps in conducting a literature review. First, key terms, identifying key terms, um, and usually again 3 and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Locating the literature, evaluating and selecting the literature, that usually what's most applicable to your key terms, organizing the literature that you have found and selected, synthesizing it. Okay, how does one study relate to another study, relate to another study, relate to what you want to know? And then finally writing up what your literature review. Uh, it helps if you write along the way, and I'll talk a little bit about that also. Um, yeah. Okay. So first of all, identifying key terms. If you write a preliminary working title, then often that helps a person come up with key terms. And then 2 or 3 keywords that capture the central idea. And usually there may be 2 words related to the topic and 1 word related to the population or the group of students or clients that you're interested in. And then a short general research question to answer in the study is another way of figuring out what your key terms are. What do you want to know? So, for example, one of the things that's occurring to me as a result of my work with mentoring a new teacher is how do I support a new teacher who has had no teacher training? Okay. And so I would think that I would be looking for things relate, and the teacher's working in an elementary school. Okay. So mentoring, I'm mentoring, so that would be one of my key terms. I'm mentoring someone who's uncertified or emergency certified. Okay, so that would be another part. And I'm looking for strategies. Strategies for mentoring someone who is uncertified, okay, or emergency certified, who doesn't have a lot of training in education. So you see, I have 3 ideas there that I would be searching 3 key terms that I would be searching for. Okay, you be using words that authors report in the literature if you know them. If you don't, usually you stumble across, oh, you know, they talk about uncertified. They also talk about emergency certified. They also talk about underprepared. Oh, okay. I see what terms are being used. You'll use online databases such as eric.ed.gov. But I'm going to show you how to I'll do a little video where I show you how I get through our library, to our library databases. Um, Review journal holdings and scan tables of contents for key terms. That's if you go to an actual library, right? And you're looking at physical journals. And then examining electronic databases, and that's the main way that nowadays we search journal articles is through databases. Next slide. Okay. We want to focus on academic library sources, because we're looking at formal research, okay? And formal research has been through a process called peer review. And I have been through that process with my work, and it's very rigorous. By having others look at my work, they were really able to help me refine my study in some cases, and in other cases, refine both my study and how I wrote about the study in some cases, and other cases refine just how I wrote about it so that my writing was more clear. And so we want articles that have been through that peer review process, are stronger because they have been through that peer review process. And another academic source is textbooks. You have a textbook for this class. And you have textbooks that you've gotten through other classes, particularly your content area classes. And so those can also be a source of information. It's in your text, it says, be cautious of Wikipedia. I love Wikipedia. I have contributed to it numerous times. I think it's a great place to start. There is no encyclopedia as comprehensive as Wikipedia. Of course, you're going to need to be discerning and read through with a critical eye, of course, but there is no source as comprehensive as Wikipedia, and it can give you a good starting place for as you're doing your research. And usually, by a starting place, I mean that if you read my literature reviews, you're not going to see me reference Wikipedia, but you might see I might read, if I read about a general topic and you know how they have references there, I might go to an article that they reference if it is a peer-reviewed article and it has the information that I need, then that's what I'm going to reference in my literature review. Okay? By primary and secondary sources, we're talking about actual primary sources, actual artifacts that have been created through some process. In education, often the primary sources are things like legislation, and the secondary source may be a newspaper article about some kind of education legislation that has happened. And literacy, a primary source may be children's books, for example, and a secondary source may be a review, like an ALA review of a children's book, a particular children's book, something like that. Okay, I strongly recommend being efficient. We're all busy, right? Use other people who can help you. Specifically, we have some excellent librarians. Save time, save headache, meet with someone who loves to find research articles, right? And so this might be where I would start if I had a big paper to write. I would meet either with Josette or Thomas. You can call Reese Library to find out how to make an appointment. Josette is the liaison for teaching and leading, and Thomas is the liaison for advanced studies and innovation. Okay, so you can meet with them. You can tell them, okay, here's my working title. Here's my general research question. Can you find articles that relate? Can you help me find articles that relate to my topic? And they will sit with you and help you find. Or in some cases, you can say, hey, can you point me towards some? And they'll send you a list. So yeah, I would talk with them about how they can help you with your research. Meet with your advisor, okay? All of us professors, we have a zillion books, and and by virtue of our work, we know who does work on what in our field. And so again, save time, save headache. Go talk to your advisor, another professor, another one of your professors, someone who knows your discipline well. We have fabulous professors here. You can contact a professor via email. Face to face is often best though, because here's what I've seen people do and what I've done too. Oh, you're interested in that? Then I reach back to my bookshelf and boom, here you go. Here's an excellent source, of information. A few students getting together may even be better than you going it alone, particularly if you tend to be shy. Or you can designate the person who is most likely to be on campus at the same time as the professor to be the one who goes for your group. Okay? And that way you all can get access to the information that you need. Now there are resource guides that were created by people like Josette and Thomas, and there are resource guides for our each area that's covered here at the Augusta Universities, and I put some links in there on slide 9 for you. Okay, slide 10 shows one way of classifying different literature sources, because we want to find high quality but also current sources of information. And so basically it lists different sources and how current they are on the one hand versus the standards, the gatekeeping, the extent to which they have been reviewed essentially before they're available to the public. And so the Review of Research in Education, a journal that's put out by the American Education Association, has these amazing summaries of whole bodies of literature, okay? And they are amazing, but it takes a long time to get an article published in RRE. It's a very competitive journal to get into. The literature that they review, it's not going to be the hot off the press stuff. It's going to be stuff that was available at the time that the author first did their synthesis, first did their search, right? And so it's going to be super high quality and very comprehensive, but not as current. And then early stage material like stuff from conferences and that kind of thing, stuff that someone might have written in their blog about their experiences as an educator, as a leader, as a counselor. That it might be, oh, this is a right now down to the minute, very fresh, very current information, but it hasn't been vetted by anyone. So that's kind of the trade-off that you're looking at. Journal articles tend to be somewhere in between. So here at Augusta University, for education or counseling, there are five, okay, databases, right? There are five databases that really are where you're going to find articles for education and counseling. Academic Search Complete, Education Source, ERIC, Psych Info, and Social Index with full text, okay? And then there are others that are better for kinesiology and sports medicine. Now, selecting literature that's relevant. It should cover the same topic that you're talking about, concerns same or similar individuals or sites, and addresses the same problem. Um, so like the topic I was talking about was mentoring. The individuals I'm talking about are teachers who are underprepared, who are uncertified. And the issue I'm talking about is I'm talking about what strategy, let's say strategies for mentoring for classroom management or reading instruction. Those are the two main things that we're running into. And so, but strategies is what I'm looking for. There are lots of there are other ways people can write about mentoring teachers, and it may be about building relationship, about establishing trust, about other things that are involved in mentoring. But I'm interested in strategies for improving instruction, basically. So those are the three things. So I would be looking for articles that hopefully cover those three things, that address those three things. Okay. So I would be thinking about the source. If I've used those databases that I pointed out, generally it's going to be a high quality source. I would also make sure I include quantitative and qualitative sources, because you get slightly different information, as we've been talking about, from quantitative studies versus qualitative studies. When thinking about it, if this is the source worthy of inclusion in my literature review, relevance is going to be the number one thing of the topic. Relevance of the topic. If it's not about mentoring, probably not going to include it. There's a lot of stuff about underprepared, uncertified, or emergency certified teachers. Yeah, mentoring has to be in there somewhere. Individual and site relevance. If it's about, if it's not about mentoring teachers, then that's may not be as relevant. And probably problem relevance. If it's not about the strategies, for example, if it's not about strategies for helping the teacher improve instruction, then it's not as relevant. And then finally, is it available to me? Can it be downloaded? And I kind of try to eliminate that concern by making sure that I am searching for stuff that's available full text, where the full text is available. You gather the studies, right? And for me, I'm a paper person, so gathering means I print them out. Take notes. For me, I've printed it out. I might highlight. Okay. The abstract is very important. A well-written abstract tells you so much about the study that that may be my main source of notes on a particular article. The structure is essentially the same for quantitative and qualitative research studies when I'm organizing the literature and writing what we call an annotated bibliography. For an annotated bibliography of a particular article, I would want to know, okay, what's the main problem that they're exploring, or what are their research questions or hypotheses? What data collection procedure, basically, was it quantitative or qualitative? And then finally, what were their results? What did they find out? And I'd be making note of basically three things: research question, methodology, results. In terms of taking my notes on what a particular article was about. And so if I'm writing an annotated bibliography, I would write what the reference site, what the reference citation would be in APA 6, right? I'd have that. And then underneath that, I'd write about a paragraph where I have their research questions, their data collection, the basics of their methodology, and the results. Yes. Okay, here's how you synthesize it. Here's how you organize it. Go by the important concepts. So your main buckets, right? So my first bucket might be uncertified teachers. Who are they? What are the main challenges? All about my first part might all about be uncertified teachers, the actual teachers, emergency certified teachers, why they exist, where they teach. My second bucket might be about mentoring. What are the qualities that mentors need to have? What do mentors do? That kind of thing. My third bucket is about strategies for instructional improvement. Okay, so then what did I find out about strategies that mentors use? How much modeling is there? Articles that talk about modeling? Is there articles that talk about how mentors share written information with their mentees? How much time are mentors spending talking with their mentees? That kind of thing. And then how are those concepts related? You could do a literature map, and this is usually for more extensive literature reviews where you're identifying key terms and you're connecting them. Yes, and this is particularly important when you're writing, when you're, oh, I didn't talk about scholarship. Let me talk about scholarship for a minute. So when you think of a scholar, I kind of think of like an old black and white drawing of someone, dressed in robes who is, an old and has a pen with a feather on the end and a thick book, and basically this idea that we're going to go to the literature first. Okay, we're going to be scholars first. We waste our time if we end up doing a research project that someone has already asked and answered the question that we have. Okay, particularly if they've asked and answered the question we have with the population that we have. So let's be scholars first. We're not going to be sitting in a dusty library for days on end, hunched over a book. But let's be scholars first. And because there is a tremendous body of knowledge of studies out there about education, about counseling, about kinesiology. Okay, so let's be scholars. Let's be scholars first. Okay, so scholarship is a type of research. Instead of doing an investigation yourself, you're essentially investigating the investigations that other people have done. And so there are articles that are themselves reviews of this research, like the articles in RRE, right? And so yeah, so you would, if you were writing a review, if you were writing a paper, and a lot of times the papers that we write in a graduate program are the scholarship papers, where we have located a number of sources and we're using those sources to make an argument, present a point of view, share information, that kind of thing. Okay, and a literature map is something you could use in order to show how the concepts in those sources that you found relate. Okay, and here's an example. Okay, and it shows a hierarchical design. Okay, and there's more details about this in your textbook. We're not doing that for this class, so I'm kind of skipping over this part. You can also do it kind of Venn diagram style or relating, and sometimes it might be a flow chart. There are different ways to do it depending on what the topic is that you're studying. Okay. Style manual. We're using the American Psychology Association style manual, the APA 6 manual. End of text reference. The end of text references are, we have our reference list at the end, and then within text are brief citations where we have the author and the date. Also, headings and subheadings are described. The way we do headings and subheadings are the APA 6th style. So that's something you can look up either in your book, which you should probably have, very important, and or look it up online, that kind of thing. Um, we're okay. A couple of kinds of literature review: a thematic review, okay, um, and a study by study review. Uh, okay. Um, for our class and most of the work that you do at this level, um, um, we it's thematic reviews, okay? Because we're trying to find out something something related to our professions. Study by study reviews are often used to find out the nature of the knowledge within a particular field. And I participated in a study by study review that was looking at the methodologies that are discussed in research articles on educational leadership. Okay, um, that's not as useful for those who are trying to solve a problem in their profession. Okay, you want to do thematic reviews where you're looking what are the themes and what you're finding out in the literature. In concluding your literature review, you're going to summarize your major themes. And if the literature review is like the first part of your study, the first half of your research report, you're going to end with the rationale for the need for your study. So we found out this, this, and this, but we did not find out this, and that's why in this study we will explore blah 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 blah. All right, and that's it. Um, Yeah. And so I'll be giving you specific information about your assignment, but I hope that was a useful overview of writing literature reviews. Okay. See you next time.